Hello and welcome to the SBP Podcast, the voice of mobile film. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and this is episode 51. If you're planning on being at the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego next month, April 27th and 28th, you should know something. We encourage you to bring your smartphone and to not just keep it in your pocket. Okay, so you actually may want to turn the sound off for calls and notifications. I don't want to forget that. But we want you to be a part of the film festival and interact. Most importantly, you're going to be inspired and may want to cover portions of the film festival with your smartphone camera. And I don't just mean snapping photos. Our guest is Francesca Jago of Get Ahead Media in New Zealand. Francesca has been a part of our podcast before, and this is probably, I think it's her third time. But it's been about a year since she was last here. And like many of our passionate smartphone, video, and film star friends, her business is growing and she continues to learn too. So we thought we would ask Francesca to share what she's learned from her experience and her workshops about how to best capture an event using your smartphone camera to record video and sound. We say sound because if you don't get sound to go with the video, you're going to miss a whole lot. And if you want to get in-depth tips on recording audio with your smartphone in general, then you should join us on Patreon because our patrons receive exclusive benefits, including special in-depth podcasts. Oh, actually, something I don't want to miss out on here. Our patrons are already receiving early bird tickets to the International Mobile Film Festival that's taking place here in San Diego next month at a discounted rate. So go to patreon.com/SBP Podcast. Don't miss out. Now, speaking of missing out, let's go to beautiful New Zealand and talk to Francesca Jago now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the SBP Podcast. We're actually here with Francesca Jago. How are you doing, Francesca?
Good. It's going to be back for my third time, maybe?
Yeah, but we won't do the you're striking three and you're out type thing. We still want you to keep coming back. Francesca is from Get Ahead Media. And so, Francesca has had a very successful year. We were just having a little bit of a chat, and we can't believe how fast the year has gone by. The last time we spoke with you was in March.
Yeah. So pretty much a year ago.
Yeah. And so, and that this is a great little segue into what the topic of these of our conversation really is going to be about, because we're nearing next month is going to be the International Mobile Film Festival, the 8th year that we've had the film festival. And,
nice.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Francesca, did you know that we're also celebrating the 10th anniversary of since I launched this film festival?
That is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like
you should do something big for that.
Well, you know what? I'm going back to the basics, which is stories, and that's when I realized it, because I was trying to come up with a really good theme about what this entire year really is about, And when I thought stories, it brought me back to 10 years ago when I started this, and why I started
epic.
This. Yeah, it really is. It's like almost like coming around full circle, empowering the storyteller, to share their stories using film, which is the best format, film and video, using, what you're doing, which is empowering people to use their smartphones, So it's all very connected to actually do that. And so the topic for this podcast is about, just kind of connecting it with our film festival event. And hopefully people will listen to this before they come to our film festival.
Yep.
And they'll get some tips on how best to record videos using their smartphones during events.
Yeah.
So, Francesca, before we do that, just share with our audience, for those who may just stumble upon our podcast for the first time, who haven't gone through all 50 other episodes, what Francesca Jago does and what Get Ahead Media is doing for people.
Yeah, sure. So I guess, yeah.
Also, you're in New Zealand right now, right?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay.
It is the evening here in New Zealand. End of my day, my Monday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I just finished a day of work. But here in New Zealand, so what I do with Get Ahead Media, I run Get Ahead Media. And essentially, I guess to boil it down, I work a lot with entrepreneurs and business owners who hire me to propel their business forward using video, because most of them don't have either the skills or the gear or even know how to sort of capture and create their videos to really showcase their business. So I help them to easily create awesome videos just using their phones to help grow their business and reach more of their customers and their clients. That's what I do on a daily basis, whether it's in-person workshops or online.
When you're teaching these workshops, I was looking at your blog, and you've got some really good guides there as well that you're promoting there, and they're basically available to every single person listening to this podcast for free right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can put some links down the bottom if it helps, if that works.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. We have to do that. But also you've got some wonderful videos there that really, I mean, it's all great to talk about this stuff, but to also have all the videos that you have, especially I went to your YouTube. You guys need to subscribe to her YouTube so you can get all these videos as they're coming up. It's amazing because you have videos there for just about every topic that people want to learn about.
Yeah, and all filmed and edited on my phone.
Amazing. So you're like on a surfboard, because she's a surfer.
Yeah.
And you're like shooting stuff, and then you're like kicking back after you hit a wave, right? And you're like, I'm just going to edit this right here on my phone right now.
Absolutely. Yep, in my waterproof case.
Right? And that's something that people need to know, because there are people who claim, well, I can't shoot it with my smartphone because it's not waterproof.
Yeah. But you can.
Yeah, and the water cases have been out for since like I'm actually thinking 2011, when I was talking to somebody.
Hasn't been that long.
Yeah, there was a filmmaker that I met. He wasn't a filmmaker. But what he did was he was a scuba diver, and he was sharing with me this thing that he found underwater, and he found a case that could go so many feet deep. I think it was like 300 feet deep or something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh wow.
And he said he wanted to go even deeper than that, so he could get under this thing and record all this wonderful, interesting stuff that he found. I can't say much more because I don't know if he ever published this stuff, but it was kind of very secretive, discovery. And we met, and as a matter of fact, sometimes we still have a conversation, but he brought this case to our film festival. Yeah. And it was like this big plastic thing, and that was already back then, in 2011. So isn't that interesting? And then there were bags after that, and all. Oh
yeah, but bags don't go very deep.
No, they don't. But the other thing that now that we're on this topic, how deep can a smartphone? I feel like we're doing the how low can you go?
Yeah. So it all depends on the case, because the cases are specifically designed for the amount of pressure, the deeper you go. So the one I had was 60 feet.
Oh.
But the one next to that, the one above that, which was cheaper, was 10 feet. And then the one underneath that, through this particular company that I bought mine from, was 100 feet. And that was 4 years ago, I think. Because I got it for my 6S. That was the first one I got. The one I have now, I think, is 100 feet. But I do believe they go deeper.
Yeah, well, this was back in 2011. Maybe it was 100 feet.
I don't know.
Maybe not 300 feet. Somebody could be looking this up and find out, because it'd be good for people to know, because scuba diving is one thing. You do have to depressurize your ears. You don't want to. My father was a scuba diver. And so it's it's like there were people that he would go under with, and I remember some of them getting sick after, and he would tell them, "I told you that you can't just like slack on that one."
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's always, and he used to do underwater photography too with his camera. He was also a photographer, and he used to do that as well. And he used a case for that. So those have been around since forever, for regular cameras. So
yes, absolutely.
It only makes sense that they would do them for smartphones. So obviously we're not going to talk about underwater video.
As fun as that is.
I know, right? But we're going to talk about some other events. So Francesca, regarding events, I have a question for you, and I think I was starting to ask you this. Now, first of all, you can shoot an event on an iPhone and Android, whatever the heck you want, for the most part. And most phones nowadays are shooting in 4K. But if you're in an event, right, and of course you want to get the best quality footage, that's quite a balancing act right there, because you're at an event, you may have limits you're going to shoot photos and you're going to shoot videos. And also you may not have a place where you can readily recharge your phone. Plus video already, when you're recording video for a long period of time, it does tend to heat up your phone as well.
Oof,
and then you drain the battery very fast. There's so many things that can happen. And I have a question about audio. So basically, and now address the video stuff, but also include in that, I used to shoot a lot of events, and I remember a friend of mine saying, "You shoot a lot of events. Why don't you shoot my wedding?" I'm like, "Well, because the audio," and this was with a regular, camera. I said, it would be nice to have somebody, running the audio separately, so that while I'm here recording with the microphone, they can use the boom mic, and hold that at the other end. And she didn't understand and why I was telling her that, but it turns out that the band that was playing was actually her daughter, who was getting married. She said, and I said, well, then what you do is, if I'm editing this, you ask her to, is somebody there, they can record it professionally, and then I can work that sound in. Because this is what happens, guys. You get with the camera, your phone, right in front of the stage, and you're doing close-ups and pans and all these cool little angles of them on stage or whatever, of the band. And guess what happens to the audio? So if you've got bass or drums or anything like that, every time they boom, that totally blows out your audio. So it comes in and out, in and out. It sounds horrible. So what would you give people advice to? What advice would you give people? Well, this is a great night for me to be doing a podcast when I can't speak right. What would you advise people to do in a situation like that?
With audio, specifically.
Yeah, especially if they're by themselves.
Yeah. So I film events. I actually filmed this really amazing event where the first female beatboxing champion was performing, and I was commissioned to film her specifically. And so I had to get good audio because she's, a beatboxer and a singer. You have to get the good audio for what she's saying. Right. So my best advice is kind of two elements to this. And I captured the audio in two ways and used both. But if you want to get good audio from an event, and if you're there as a participant, it's a bit trickier, but you might have to make friends with someone, is actually going to the sound booth guy and get a feed out of his sound desk, which has all the audio for the event, and record it onto your phone or an external device. Mm-hmm. That is the only way to get crystal clear audio for everything that is happening related to the microphones and who's speaking and the sound that's being broadcast to the viewers, participants, attendees, right. At an event. That is the best way to get clear
and
audio.
Then you can blend that in as the second track with the natural sound.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the next thing to do is when you're using your phone is actually not to use the built-in camera app, because it doesn't allow you to control the audio. Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is actually, I use Filmic Pro. Most people have heard of Filmic Pro now. There's a couple of options out there, but I just prefer Filmic Pro. I've been with them since they started. Download Filmic Pro and use that to film your event, because you can actually control the audio. So you have complete control on turning it way down, because they're going to be playing music and it's going to be quite loud, and have it set at that limit that whole time. Or you can test out the auto function and it actually auto gains based on the sound that's coming. That's kind of the easier side of things when you don't have additional gear, like to go and plug into the sound booth and make friends with the sound booth guy. That's for kind of capturing the sound of the whole event as a whole. It depends what you're filming, though, at the event. So if you're focusing on the speakers, for example, I'm assuming there's going to be speakers at your at the film festival. Yeah. That kind of thing works in terms of getting the audio. If you're filming a band, that would be different.
Yeah, when you get into the music thing, that gets tough.
Yeah. So you have to get crystal already by making friends with the sound booth guy in that instance. But it also depends if you're going to go film interviews with, say, people going, oh, what do you think of the event? Outside of the main stage, so to speak. Then you're gonna need to get a good microphone in order to cut out the sound noise of everyone chatting in the background and to get the interview that you want.
I noticed when I was filming, I'm going to drop some names here now.
Yeah, do it.
So when I was interviewing Ari Tyros during our film festival in 2017, and he won, I believe it was, I can't remember now. Sorry, Ari. He won something. He won one of the top prizes, okay? And I was interviewing him. He had his trophy and everything. It was fantastic. And what I did was I just grabbed the first microphone I had, because there was a lot going on, and I was like, come outside and let's interview you really quick. And everybody wanted to talk to him because he became instantly more famous.
Yep.
And so I handed him my shotgun mic, and I love Audio Technica. Audio Technica to me is the best brand. Now, Audio Technica should sponsor my film festival now, because I'm just like, this isn't an advertisement, guys. I love them. And their prices, they've never let me down. Even with their cheapest microphones, they've never let me down. It's always higher quality than the others. But I grabbed my Audio Technica. Now, this is an old one. I think it's an ATR 100, if I'm correct. I can't remember. Shotgun mic. And I said, here, just hold this. I'm not pointing this to you. Just hold it like a microphone and let's record this. And when I played that back, the sound of that was amazing. Amazing compared to a regular condenser mic.
Yeah.
It had a lot of oomph to it, like a DJ, like a radio guy, or just like sound coming from a Hollywood film or something like that. You can totally tell the difference between that and other microphones.
Yeah, no, it's having that right microphone, for the gig. when you're going to do that kind of like interview style stuff for sure.
Yeah, and you know, that's an XLR mic, not excellent. It's an XLR mic, you know, hooked up to a cable, just to give the visuals to our listeners. And it's connected to another device that I love, and it's the older one, the iRig Pre.
Oh, yes, yep.
And I use that, but what that has is it has an audio jack on it as well. And so what I do is, the cable goes into your, if you have a phone with an audio jack, or if you just get the adapter, you can put it in there. But I use the headphones to monitor the sound, and then I can use the gain control. Just by listening to it, you know, so I can watch the video. And by doing that, I'm just able, and I did this at Comic-Con too, where no matter what mic you have hooked up to this thing, you're able to monitor the sound through, through their app, through their iRig app.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's pretty awesome that you can do things like that with the audio. But share with us when it comes to video now, because we're going to talk more about audio in the bonus exclusive episode that we're going to put on our Patreon for our patrons. I tried not to. I have to think about how I say that, Patreon patrons. Later, but let's talk now about video and because we have we have some limits, right? When we go to an event, to what you part of you is coming there to enjoy the event. The other part of you is going there because you don't want to ever forget it, and you may want to do something and maybe promote your friends who are part of the event or something, right?
Yeah.
So,
I knew this question was going to come up.
So it's not like you go in there with duffel bags full of gear.
Yep.
So what would you say?
Well, see, because I've filmed so many events now, and I've either been, I've done like where my colleagues have gone, oh, you can come to my event for free, and can you do a video? Like, that's kind of like, give take kind of thing, right? This is back in the day. Right. People are going to not like what I have to say when I say this, but that's okay. I think, personally, we might delve further into this, and I'll give you some options. But if you're going to an event for the purpose of being an attendee, you go to enjoy the event, not to film it. This is my opinion.
Right.
If you're going to film it, and say you want to promote your friends and promote yourself being there, maybe you want it for social media, you're like, hey, I'm going to this event, and you need the video and some interviews with you talking about the event, for your social media, then my recommendation is get someone else to come with you and film you. Because that way you can, if you're an attendee, you can actually focus and enjoy the event. It kind of comes down to like people half watching TV and on their phone at the same time. No one's ever giving their full attention to one thing.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to film it, give the full attention to filming. If you're going to be attendee, give the full attention to attendee. Not the answer you probably wanted.
No, it's not that. It's that I'm connecting with everything that you're saying. I mean, but only on a level, because personally, I can't seem to enjoy anything without capturing. And this is since I was a little kid. I mean, I got my first camera when I was 7 years old. I was talking to some families a few months ago, actually, as we were saying, time flies. And we were talking, and they said, wow, if they would have had Instagram when you were a kid, your Instagram would have had hundreds of thousands of photos by now, because everywhere you went, you were capturing something, with, taking photos of something,
Yeah, I was the same,
no matter what it was. It could have been a rock. It didn't matter. I would take photos. So I have, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I have this habit of, I go to events. It's also an icebreaker.
Yeah.
If you go alone to events ever, and you know what, like, I have no issue going to events by myself a lot.
Yeah.
But if it's a great icebreaker, because you're there and you're shooting photos, and, you still get to eat, and all that stuff, and meet people and mingle, but you also get to, have some fun and stay active in a way, instead of just kind of sitting in a corner type of a thing.
I guess if you're introverted, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit of both.
Yeah, yes, right in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, so I can be very, very social and not shy or anything. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that sometimes you want to have that space. And when you're in public or something like that, and you do that, have you ever gone to a party or something, and you're like, I'm just going to sit on this sofa and just kind of watch everybody, and then somebody comes next to you and goes, "What's wrong?"
I've never had someone come up to me and say, "What's wrong?"
It's like,
maybe you're looking sad or something.
Yeah, it's like, well, because you're not, like everybody else jumping around, and it's like, well, I just want to have this moment where I'm people watching.
Yeah, people watching. Absolutely. I totally get it. I totally do that too.
Yeah.
But someone always wants to come over and break the ice with you. But I've never had someone say what's wrong specifically.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I guess people care about me.
Yeah, that's nice.
Right? But only during parties. No, anyways. But anyways, yeah, let's so if you're going to an event, then and you are for our listeners, you are asked to go to an event, or that you're going to go to an event, and you are expected. Maybe they're not even asking you; they're just expecting you to capture stuff, right? Then you should concentrate on that and focus on that, and you should bring some gear with you, right?
Well, you don't even need a lot of gear. You just you need obviously your phone.
Right.
Not really much you can do about lighting unless you bring a light, but let's assume that you're not gonna, and that's fine. We can talk about that. But you need to bring at least your phone and some form of additional microphone. At the very least, those are the two things you need.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you can obviously bring, like I would recommend a rig, just because it'll make it easier for your filming to be a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Free with your wandering around getting videos kind of stuff.
Right.
As opposed to, a tripod and that kind of stuff. Just bringing a small rig. But, yeah, you don't need lots of gear. Regardless of what you're doing, as long as there's expectations of what you're doing for the event. But as long as you're, if you're going to be concentrating on filming the event, film the event. You're not there as a participant.
I would not recommend bringing tripods to an event.
If you're,
Because it can be, there's a liability issue with that. Plus you're obtrusive. Plus, really, when you walk away to do handheld stuff, who's watching your tripod? And,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But some sort of, I've used a shoe to stabilize my phone before. Just as long as I could show you that, how I do that, especially with shoelaces. Like I just put my phone in the shoe and literally, and just because it's something. It could be a piece of wood. It doesn't matter with two rubber bands on each side. As long as you get the lens, that's not covered and you can not hold your phone with your fingers, it's good to go. It helps you keep it balanced. But yeah, just something to balance your phone and like you said, a rig where you can attach. Now when we were talking before, I'm pretty sure that we were talking about even if you don't have a microphone to at least use your earpods, right?
Yes. Yeah. Especially if you're going to be interviewing someone.
Yeah. So if you're in a noisy event or something like that, then even that will help, right? Oh,
absolutely. As opposed to the built-in microphone on the phone, for sure.
Yeah, and then you can walk away a little bit, like not walk away, but I mean you can put a little more distance between you and the person that because I don't know about most of you guys listeners, but I don't like it when someone has a camera right on my face doing a close-up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right. And what is some of your advice on the settings for the phone to get the most out of it? You're playing the balance game there, right?
Yeah. So, because you don't know especially if you're not going to the event early or what venue it's going to be at, you don't know what like the lighting situation is going to be and that kind of stuff. And so if you're using, either on iPhone or Android, getting some kind of app that's not just the built-in camera app, just because you can absolutely film with that, but it just doesn't give you the control to be able to get a really great quality picture like Filmic Pro, or even Open Camera is a free one on Android, using some kind of app that allows you to control all those things like the amount of light and your audio levels and that kind of thing.
How heavy does it matter how heavy an app is? And I mean heavy, like jam-packed with features and things like that, which tend to sometimes, unless you have a really good phone and a lot of memory, it kind of does seem to eat up a lot of that.
Yeah, well, I think phones nowadays, they seem to have enough memory. Like I still run Filmic Pro, the current version of Filmic Pro on my iPhone 6S, and it works fine.
Cool.
And so that's like, what's that? A couple of years, 4 years old now? Did the 6S come out?
I don't know. That's what I have, and that's like, I don't know, 10 years old.
No, I think it came out 4 years ago, the 6S. And I still use Filmic Pro on that. The only thing you're looking at is if you get the very bottom of a range smartphone that doesn't actually have much camera capability already, then no, you can't sort of use an additional app in there. But otherwise, most phones are capable. And that's why the cool thing with Android is you've got open camera that you can download on your phone for free and always give it a go to make sure it's compatible before you actually, go out to your event. As opposed to Filmic Pro, well, it costs money from the outset. So,
yeah,
although I think iFilmmaker,
yeah,
Filmmaker is free, has a free trial. So you can check out that, and it's similar to Filmic Pro. It doesn't quite give you the same level of usability in terms of you controlling everything, but it is very similar. And I think they give you a free trial. So you can always try the app. And that's the thing, is try this before you go out to the event. You don't want to get to the event and go, oh, man, it doesn't work.
Well, yeah, it doesn't. And it doesn't help if you don't try it also because, it could break down on you. Like, it could have all these flaws that you don't even know about. Like, what about ProCam?
ProCam. I don't know if I've used that one. Is that one? That one's Android, right?
No, that one's it's an iPhone app. I've had it for a number of years. It has like raw for photos.
Photos, yeah.
Like that, yeah. But it also has a video component to it.
Yeah, so I think I actually have it on my phone, and I've only used it once because of the fact that I use Filmic Pro, and it's just the best out there. So that's why I just use that. So I can't really talk to the usability of that because I've only used it once.
Well, Filmic Pro. So there's this thing when I was in college, we were talking about brands, right, and marketing. And there's tissue that you use for blowing your nose or whatever, right? And then there's Kleenex.
Yeah.
So nobody says, will you please fetch some tissue? They say, get me some Kleenex.
Yes.
And that's
especially
what
in the States.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's what happens with Filmic Pro. I forgot who I was talking to. It was a very random conversation with a complete stranger, which I have those every day. And they said, oh, yeah. I use this app called Filmic Pro. And I said, really? And he shows it to me on the phone. And it was just like, it was not Filmic Pro. And I said, that's not Filmic Pro. He says, oh, well, yeah, but it's like a Filmic Pro app. And I'm like, Filmic Pro app is not Filmic Pro. So Filmic Pro is the actual brand, the make of the name of the app. And they're like, oh, I thought that just meant like, because of the word.
It was a pro app, yeah.
It was like, that meant that was an app for filming.
Wow.
And so I'm funny. Like, wow, I should talk to, Neil Barham and tell him, hey, guess what? You're going into the Kleenex area.
I know. That's crazy.
It's a very popular app. And also, when it comes to doing events, there's another thing where I really do want to address. Now, I'm a big fan of shooting horizontal. Horizontal versus vertical. And that's because I feel like, especially in an event, in a film, anything, you don't want to limit where you're going to see this on the screen. But during an event, you really want to capture the scene. And to capture a scene, you want to get more than just the middle. You want to open the door all the way.
Yeah. I take your point, and I'm gonna not argue with you, but
because
as a filmmaker, like I started as a filmmaker, I totally get horizontal. It all depends on what are you going to do with this event video. Are you capturing it for yourself, or for YouTube or that kind of thing? Because horizontal, even if you were capturing it for Facebook, shooting horizontal and then cropping it to square,
Yeah.
Is also something you do. But if you're doing it for a Snapchat, or you're doing it for IGTV, or a vertical based platform, then you definitely want to film in vertical.
Right.
So it all depends on where you intend on your video going.
But what about after? Like, in other words, so let's say that you recorded in vertical and then you get the opportunity to actually say, you know what, this really came out really nice, but I would like to play this on another display. Or somebody's asking, hey, I want to incorporate this in my event video. And then they're going, did you really shoot all of it in vertical? Something like that.
Yeah, like I said, it all depends on what you're going to use it for. So if you're intending on going, I'm going to put this on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and my LinkedIn or something,
right,
then if you're shooting vertical landscape, you can pretty much make something for all of those platforms. But if you're like, I'm all about IGTV, or I'm all about Snapchat, and that's how you grow your following and you grow your audience and whatever it is you do on there, they're going to be peed off if there's a landscape video in the middle of
here's the thing.
Snapchat.
I see the benefit of for vertical, and that is, so if you're using live, live videos, usually people are going to be, the apps for that, in other words, are vertical, right?
Yes. Yeah.
On Facebook, it's leaving out Facebook.
Either or.
Yeah, because it's either or on Facebook. I would rather show the same. But here's the other thing. A lot of people, where they're doing live videos, especially the ones where, like you do these, where you're talking, it's like, I call them a selfie video, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so the person speaking, if you are in a setting, like let's say you're in your bedroom, right? And you're doing a selfie video. Yeah. And what's in the background? Well, there's your bed, and there's like half your laundry happens to be on your bed. It's not one of the, and you don't really think about that. You're just like in the moment and blah, blah, blah. And whoever is watching it is going, yeah, but I can't keep my eyes off the laundry. Ooh, I have a shirt like that. Ooh, where did you get those? I don't know. Yeah. It's just
no, absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah.
So for a vertical video, for something like that, I think it's perfect because it helps you not have to look for ways to hide the surrounding.
Stuff, yeah,
and
absolutely.
Still have to be super close up, to fill up an entire landscape video with just your face. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, too close.
Very intense. So for stuff like that, I would definitely say so. So for Snapchat, right? And you said like LinkedIn, IGTV. I've seen people doing the IGTV, and I'm going, well, if you lock your orientation while you're watching an IGTV landscape video, and then you just kind of turn it, it'll still look like a YouTube video, but you can't count on everybody to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It looks sideways. There's no way around that one.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. What about lighting? How do you work around with lighting?
Yeah. So unless you bring a light with you, unless you come prepared, there's very little you can do in an enclosed space. Like often these things are like done on stages where there's like not much lighting. And there's nice mood lighting happening on the stage. Yeah. And you kind of always take advantage of that. And that's where, again, I'm going to say it again, but if you don't have a light, Filmic Pro or another filming app, let's be clear, there's others out there, allow you to control the light. Because often what you find with the camera that's on your phone in like low lighting situations is that auto does it for you, but then you end up with a really grainy image.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have an app where you can control what the shutter speed is and what the ISO is and, that kind of light measurements, then you have a better chance of making your image not look so grainy and terrible.
What about the other thing that happens too in a lot of events? So you get, so people, like, let's say you're at a wedding. I don't know why I'm stuck on weddings. Probably because I had that one experience. Let's say you're at a wedding. So they have very well lit areas and then not so well lit areas. Then they have the area where everybody's dancing with the strobe lights and all these things too. How can you help your video come out at least halfway decent while it's trying to adjust? What can you do to lock that in a way that your video doesn't just blow out and stuff like that?
Okay, so the easiest way, because if you don't know really what you're doing with it when it comes to lighting, is actually let your phone do the work. Whether you're on a pro app or the default camera, it will auto adjust. If you lock your exposure to one setting and then turn across, all of a sudden that next setting that you're on is like pitch black or way blown out.
Super blown out.
Yeah. So unless you know how to change, like in a pro app, you can actually make those changes on the fly. If not, it's best to probably leave it on auto if you don't know what you're doing, only because the phone will go, oh, too much light here. Or, so I'll make it nice and even lighting. Oh, no light over here. I'll boost it up a bit. But if you can, focus on shooting, depending on what happened at your event, but if you're going to do some interviews or, get some exterior shots of people like mingling or whatever it is, try and aim for those areas that have the good light and set your lighting for those areas. So go and take your person and go, hey, can we just do a quick interview over here? Because there's better lighting over here.
Right.
Near a window or whatever it is you're doing, just to get that better light. So your video's not grainy. It doesn't look, like something, I don't know, not so good's happening in the dark shadows of the corner of the
something scary. It's like, what is that movement? There's another thing too in event videos, and I'm not going to bring up people, but people in my personal history, in my past, that used to grab my camera. This is my regular video camera, and they would just go ape wall with it, and they were just like, "Oh, look over here, look over there," and that was like nauseating. So you do want to. Now, here's the thing, guys. So first of all, you're thinking that because you're panning, which is the movement of going left to right with the camera, you're thinking that you're capturing everything in between. No, you are not. You're only capturing point A to point B. Everything in between, depending on how fast you go, is going to be completely out of focus. And every single movement on a camera what appears normal to you as far as the rate of speed is 10 times faster on video when you look at it. So you want to go, say you want to do a slow pan, you want to go even slower than what you
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Or just do stationary shots.
Yeah.
And then cut them together if you don't feel capable of doing a really slow pan.
Oh yeah, but still, that's better than going fast and going all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing about that is, like we were just talking about the different lighting. I think that if you pan, from something that's dark to something light, in auto mode, you're not going to get that big of a drastic change of light on your phone. It's gonna adjust a little easier. It's gonna be a little more subtle.
Yeah. Because phones, especially if you have a new phone, they're getting much, much smarter at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, yeah. If you get a smartphone and it's not getting smarter,
it's a good way to look at it.
My really wacky sense of humor is coming out tonight.
Always.
Right. Thanks for pointing that out. Always. So what about we were talking about before about plugging into a sound mixer or a microphone, if that's possible. What exactly are the steps for doing that on your phone?
So I would recommend, you could just do it as long as you're getting so you need the cable to fit into the sound desk of, the sound booth guy. And it depends on what kind of output he has. Hopefully he has at least a stereo head jack, because like, even if it's just coming out and out into the headphones, you can still get that into your phone. So hopefully he has one of those. So you need a cable that goes from the desk, stereo, XLR, whatever it is, into your phone.
So you can use the iRig with the XLR.
Yes, you can. Yeah, for sure. And then what I would recommend is using some kind of pro audio app. But if not, you could just use on an iPhone. You could just use the memo recorder.
Yeah.
To record that audio into your phone.
The memo recorder got better.
It is. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it got a lot better. I think it was a couple updates ago or something like that. And I was testing. I was like, even without a microphone or anything, this sounds a lot better than it used to.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Because it used to be set up for just, I guess, memos. If
Yeah,
anybody
just for yourself,
even knows
yeah.
what that is, it's like what people used to do before Facebook.
Yeah, so true.
It's like a journal type of a thing, where you're recording the audio. Now, why bother? You can just go on Facebook and do a live video. I'm just making fun of the world today, but why not? We might as well laugh because it's all true. And besides, so the microphone, that app, the memo app.
Voice memos, I think it's called.
And the thing is, it's you forget that you have these apps on the phone.
Yeah.
To use with things like this. Our phones are, believe it or not, I'm going to say this. There's more to our phone than our cameras.
It is true. It is true.
But yeah, so let me ask you something now, because I'm going to give a shout out to, we have a group for the podcast on Facebook. And you're in that group. So you saw earlier that I posted to our friends there that we were going to be talking with you. And, before I do that, I closed it because I'm recording you and I didn't want sounds coming out from the notifications on that right into the recording. But, okay, good. So there was a question there from Brian Hennings. I don't know if you know who Brian Henning is.
No.
Brian Hennings was actually our first prize winner last year in our film festival. And he was here in San Diego, and that was his second year that he came out to San Diego.
Cool.
He asked a question. Brian asked, how do you balance getting great footage? Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay, let me do it. Let me ask it one more time because I wasn't sure. Because I was talking, I wasn't sure what happened there. How do you balance getting great footage with enjoying the event yourself and not getting in the way, distracting participants and or the audience?
Yep.
It's right into kind of like what we were speaking about before.
It was.
But the other way, like, okay, we know that you want to do either or, but how would you balance that if you wanted to?
Look, it all comes down to having a plan. You need to know what it is you want to get out of filming the event. Is it just for personal, or is it for your social media? Is it for Susie? You need to know what your plan is before you go into it. Like, if you can, like, you will see. I guess you put out your event rundown out. What's happening before the day, or no? Like, do people know 9 o'clock this is happening, 12 o'clock this is happening, or no?
Well, he's doing. He's asking, like, for our film festival, like, because he's been to 2 of them, so he knows what happens there. And of course, we don't, in our film festival, we're not like, oh, everybody silence your phones, put them away. We're just not going to do that. We're the opposite. We're like, hey, take them out, have fun, share.
For sure.
And so he's thinking, well, how would someone, let's say someone comes to our film festival and they've got the program, they know what's going on, but even though they know what's going on, they want to record stuff. And how can they do that without getting in the, like, for example, let me give you an example.
Getting in the way. Yeah. I'm focusing on the great video. And then I was going to get to the getting away first.
Yeah. So, and the other thing too, people have asked me, can you get the audience reaction while they're watching my film? And I'm like, I can't, because that would mean me getting in front of this, between the screen and the people that are watching it. And that would be interrupting people from watching your film.
Yeah, true.
So no one can really do that. And of course you can always get at an angle from the side of the room and get something like that. But if you're close to the front to get their faces, people are going to be looking at you. You really are being disruptive.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, if you want to, if you want to get great footage, you need to plan, is my thing. But if you're wanting to just like go on the fly and don't have a plan, and you don't want to get in people's way, I guess is the thing, is that you need to think of it, I guess, as a viewer as well as the video taker. So would you like someone standing right in front of you to block your view of the video that you're trying to watch while someone's trying to get your footage? It's just about being considerate. Because if you're not getting paid for it, when you're getting paid for it, you can say, look, I have to capture this for the event holder. When you're not getting paid for it, you have to be a good citizen. Do unto others as you do to yourself, kind of thing. As they do unto you, whatever that quote is.
Yeah.
Be a considerate human. Don't block people if you wouldn't like to be blocked. But beyond that, how do you not get into people's way? Oh, it's a tricky one, because at events, there's depending on how many people are there. I don't know.
Like
be considerate.
That's basically his question is like, how do you get great footage without doing that? I mean, it's, to be honest, Brian, I'm going to answer that for you. It's practically impossible.
Yeah, unless you're being paid and you can go, I'm getting paid and I must get this. You can't really like block other people.
Yeah. And I would say, so there's other parts of the event. Let's say, while speakers are talking, or while everybody's mingling and things like that. It's just a matter of, like, for example, like events are my thing. So I used to do a lot of videography for events. That's what I would get paid for, Yeah. But at the same time, there were certain people that were very important for the organization, and they didn't like having a camera on their face. And there are people who are completely not part of the event. They just are audience members, attendees, and stuff like that. So one of the things I used to do is make eye contact with people as I'm approaching them with the camera to get a little bit of a reaction and read that and say, I don't think they're okay with this,
Yeah, true.
Yeah, or not. Or and this is hard to do, is actually zooming in. You don't do it for films. On video production, you do.
Yeah, on your phones, you got to be careful unless you have a dual camera, though, because then you'll just get really terrible footage.
Yep, and because you lose the resolution whenever you're doing that.
Yeah, you're just cropping the image, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you don't do it on films. You actually dolly in and out and stuff like that. But it's a very tricky thing to do when you're recording people. But I would say, use your instincts too.
Yeah.
And make sure that and you can even approach people ahead of time and say, hey, I'm going to be getting people, it just depends, on how to handle that. But yeah, Brian, I would really, it's kind of a tricky thing. Everybody has a different way. What you can get away with, somebody else cannot get away with.
Yeah.
You can steal candy from this baby, but not that one.
Yeah. So true. Yeah.
That's a horrible way of looking at it. But I mean, it's, it just depends on the person. It's basically for our listeners, I would say,
if you look pro, you can get away with more.
So
if you look like, if you have a lot of gear and you're out filming, people will be like, oh, I'm sorry. And they'll like move out of your way because they assume that you're the pro person filming that gig. So if you look real pro, you can usually get away with more.
And at the same time, you say, no, don't get out of the way. I want you to be in this.
Yeah, it depends on what you're filming. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's like, it's horrible when you're going, oh, I love this crowd scene, of this group of people talking and laughing and having a good time. And then you come up across and they're like, oh, let me get out of the way. It's like, oh, there's nobody left now.
Like, damn it.
So that was a really great question. Thanks for asking that, Brian. And so, okay, what else can we tell people? I really want to tell people a little bit more about what you do before we move on to our Patreon episode. But I want you to share with people, because you're doing some really cool things right now. You're in the middle of doing really good tutorials. Like, you're always doing that though, right? Are there any special ones coming up?
Well, I'm in the middle of I did a 5-day challenge last week, and my online course is open only until tomorrow night, though. So your listeners won't be able to join in on that. But yeah, no, I do run all sorts of challenges, or even tutorials or webinars, masterclasses, and stuff on videos. Specifically, videos for business is obviously where I'm at, because I love that I started as a filmmaker, but what I found was the small guy trying to start his own business, or just has like a small crew of people. They don't necessarily have $1,000 to $10,000 to get a production company in. As I think you've talked about this before, I think, Susie, in another podcast, or maybe on the side we were talking about the whole production company thing. Yeah. And so I really love that now that people had smartphones, they could, with just the understanding of how to actually create videos that were relevant and effective for business, they could actually do it themselves. And to be honest, I find it's often better that they have that training, because then they know what they want their business to achieve, as opposed to a videographer. Like, I used to get students and they love working for free and stuff, but they really love getting pretty images. And pretty images isn't necessarily what you needed to convey a certain thing in your business to get the results you wanted. Right. So that's why I love that, phones came out, and phones just keep getting better and better. And the business owners could take advantage of it in a way that would, help propel their business forward.
Yeah. And, like, let's say you're in a charity organization or something like that. Yep. There is nothing better than to actually approach the community or something and saying, why don't you record some of these things on your own and include them? Because a lot of times they're creating videos to get grants, right? Yeah. And so Absolutely. They're showing a need in that community. And in order to do that, you have videographers that are professionals that are going out, and everybody knows you're paying them well to do that, and they are being paid well. So they want to come out with kind of like what you're saying, with pretty images, very, very, and they look very poised, and they look almost like acting in a way. Yeah. Yeah. And so you don't really want to do that. I think that it helps your case better when you're showing more real stuff happening. Yes. And to be able to say to participants that, from the community that you want in that video, and say, hey, why don't you record your next meeting, or record your next whatever it is, that event that happens that you think would be great for us to show people that you have this need, so we can get these grants to help you. Yeah. And I think that, again, it's part of people coming together and connecting to share their stories, because they're a part of it anyways. So they may as well be a part of it on the other side of capturing their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the stories is what it's all about. Yeah. No matter what kind of videos you're doing, you're telling a story, to be honest. Yep. And if you can do it more regularly, then the more better for you.
That's exactly true. And that's actually what businesses are doing, right? They're telling their story and sharing their stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that another aspect that you also teach them when they're capturing, is how to actually capture things so they can structure a story from them later?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I actually do that in my signature course. I actually teach them sort of 2 ways to do videos. One being that story element, how to take your business story and actually turn it into a story that relates to people, not just like, oh, we started the business and then we did this and then we did this. Actually telling it in a way that's it's emotional, and it tells, the story of, the ups and downs and how it happened in a way that people can actually relate to. Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, you're definitely the right person. So whether you are creating videos, or whether, as a filmmaker, or you're doing it, you're going out and having some fun, and, you're practicing, because, who doesn't want to put on a really cool event video when they go, hey, I went to this concert, I went to this event, I went to this thing, and now I'm going to share it on my Facebook, my Instagram, whatever. How cool is it, though, to be able to put something out where you get more likes because they look better. To get some comments with reactions based on the fact that you are sharing a story that where, I know this sounds corny, but you actually touched someone through your video,
Absolutely. Yeah. And you never know, like, your decisions have an impact greater than you ever know. So this was something I learned at a course I spoke at, and I was really nervous about it. I was it was a video presentation thing, and still to this day, I have people go, your presentation, like, just spoke to me in such a way, it's still impacting me today. And you just don't realize that when you tell your story, how far the ripples go.
There's another thing that I just realized while you were saying that. Two people can tell the story about Little Red Riding Hood. I mean, we're not talking about reading it. I'm talking about telling that story. And each one of those two people are going to share that story a little bit different, with a different emphasis on this and that. And the people that are listening to that story are gonna feel it differently depending on who's telling that story.
So true, yeah.
So so it's not always, because I've had people say to me, oh, well, because I've said to people, you should share your story as a video. And they're like, well, I'm not the only person who, well, let's say you're an alcoholic, right? And you just overcame that and, whatever, right? So it's like, well, I'm not the only person that's an alcoholic that overcame that. It's like, no, you're not the only one for sure. But you definitely can share a very unique side to that no one else can or will or has.
Absolutely.
And it may be that one little unique part of that gets to a group of people that never got to feel it before as many times as they've heard that particular story.
Yeah, it's so true.
And you can change the world.
Yeah. You just don't know how far it's going to go,
It's true. It's true. Like, you do things and you just don't know. You're just like, you just do them, and you should do them. You should be motivated somehow by yourself. You should have some internal motivation to do something like sharing a story. That's for sure. Or otherwise it become very bland. And that's part of the whole thing of you sharing your own stories. Yeah. And when it comes to a business, I know there's a lot of video producers that are going to kill me for this, but do you really want to pay somebody $10,000 when you could do this? And especially if you're only going to share it on social media.
Yeah.
If you're going to go share that on YouTube or something like that, you're probably going to get a bunch of eyes on it, but you can get more eyes on it if it's really good quality. And that's what Francesca does.
Yeah. And it's important to recognize that quality is not just the sound and the light. It's the way in which you structure it and make it so that your audience can engage with it.
Yeah, because there's a psychological aspect, which is the science of creating videos and sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's art, there's talent, but then there's the skill, and that's the science part. And you want to have that effect on people, especially if you're selling a product.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So, and by the way, you got to go check out, what's the name of your website again? It's getaheadmedia.com.
That's it. Get out.
That easy?
Yeah.
All right. You guys have no reason to forget this. Getaheadmedia.com and check out. And she's got a lot of great advice for marketing too. How many seconds and how you give advice on there about saying the word you when you're speaking to people and the impact that has. What are some other ones really quick?
That's one of the big ones. You want to use it in the first 3 to 5 seconds. Using the word you is one of the really big ones. Another one is, it all comes down to, you have to know how best to speak to your audience in the first 3 to 10 seconds. And that's using questions or facts or comedy to hook them in at the beginning.
Yeah. You want to connect with your audience within like that.
Yeah.
Because, or
that's all you have.
otherwise, it's true. Because otherwise, just like that, they're out. They're gone.
Yep. They scrolled past your video, or they clicked on another page, or whatever it was. Yep.
Because we're not the only ones on YouTube. There are gazillion people in videos to see on YouTube. So if you haven't captured somebody by then, you know, they're just going to leave. I got to take my own advice too, you know. Well, Francesca, it's been wonderful catching up with you. It's always so much fun talking to you.
Yeah.
And listen to, you know, go through our podcast, go back to March
last year
before Film Festival to get the next one.
I think we actually talk about specifically videos in business, I think, in that one.
Yeah, I know we did. And we were talking about, we had a lot of fun on that one too. And it was very informative. And this one is too. And again, if you're coming to our film festival or any other film festivals, weddings, whatever, and if you want a refresher, you know, if you want to go deeper, definitely get in touch with, go to New Zealand, get in touch with.
I'm also available online. You can talk to me online.
Right. I was going to say, luckily you can do it online. Although that would be a dream, you know, to go out there where, you know, to New Zealand. Such a beautiful place.
To Wellywood, where all the films are made.
Exactly, right? Everything's epic.
Yes, that's all right.
All right. And hey, followers, listeners, patrons, if you're not a patron, go subscribe, you know, to our Patreon page so you can listen to all these other bonus podcasts. And that's actually where we're going to go right now. So say goodbye.
See ya.